Good morning, YouTube. It is 6:26 p.m. on April 10th. It is middle of the day, which means, well, it's not even the middle, it's like the end. That means it's morning for me, because I've been on JST or Oceania time for like 2 months or like a month. Yeah. It's dude, it looks like it's raining in here. I'll assure you it's not. Anyway, let's go to the store. This road is the last time I ever rode my longboard after getting hit by a car. It was this road because, well, it's pretty cool. It's super windy and it's a pretty fun ride. But after I healed, I went and I bought a full face helmet because I broke my teeth hitting the asphalt. And I put the helmet on and I bombed this hill. And then I sold the longboard and the helmet. And yeah. This Enterprise, this one right here, this is the car rental shop that I went to after I got in my first and luckily only car accident with my old car, my 98 Toyota Camry. I was, amusingly, both times I've gotten into an accident with a car have been driving to the local library or skating to the local library to pick up textbooks for school. And it was an incredibly stormy, snowy night that night. And I had put off getting the textbook until the last moment, and I had assignments due that day, and so I was urged not to go out in the snow because, well, it was not particularly safe conditions to drive, but I was a kid and I didn't really care, and so I went anyways, and luckily it wasn't really that bad. I was going 30 miles per hour coming to a stop on a left turn lane, and I went to stop my car and it didn't because there was ice on the ground, and I slid right forward into the van in front of me, a family van. There's a man and his wife. Both were relatively fine about it. The wife was a little frantic, rightfully so, and so was the husband. They had never been in a car accident before, and me neither. No injuries. I totaled my car, which I then repaired. And at that Enterprise rental shop, I picked up a Ford Focus 2016, I believe. It was the first time I had ever driven a car that wasn't that Camry. I hated that car. And I drove it for 1 week before deciding to fix my Toyota Camry, which is now a heap of parts sitting in a junkyard somewhere, probably. I left it at a friend's garage, and they called me and said that they had been scouted by like a car destruction company or something of the sort, and the person would come by and take the car away and pay them like $200 to just junk it out. And at that point, the car was just a burden on me. I couldn't leave it anywhere but the garage because the tags expired, and I couldn't get the safety certification on it because it was not drivable anymore, and I would have had to pay like $1,500 to repair it or something, so I just let them junk it. It was my grandmother's car. It was a maroon Toyota Camry with these gray cloth seats and gray fake leather on the entire interior, and it was all beaten and worn, and the front license plate had a hole in it after that car accident where I slammed into the car's exhaust pipe in front of me, so I drove around with a little hole in my license plate. And I took that car a lot of places. I drove around a lot, just like I do now. I drove that car past when my grandmother passed away. And it always treated me pretty well. I remember driving to New York for the first time in that car and taking that 98 Toyota Camry up to the point where I couldn't really tell how fast I was going anymore because the speedometer wasn't really clear, and the bottom of the car was rattling, and the mirror was shaking, and everything in the car just felt like it was going to fall apart and completely dissolve. I was going north on New Jersey Turnpike with my friend in the car, and someone pulled up next to me going the same speed, and I guess you can't really call it a race because, well, there wasn't really a destination, but we spent the next 2 or so hours of that drive careening past each other over and over at like 100+ miles per hour. I think I nicknamed him like Road Warrior or something really epic. And then obviously I never saw him again. You know, and I have a different car now, and I don't know what he's up to, but I still drive that road all the time. And every time I drive that road, I think about that guy. And that sort of like teenage otherworldly experience. My grandma was a really nice lady. She lived out in Maryland. I can't really place her house in my mind, but I remember that the sides of the road didn't have curbs like the curbs where I lived. Instead of being these like sharp, abrupt, immediate, upward raising, near right angles, they would dip and form like a divot, almost like a moat, presumably so that the water could trail through it. And then it would just sort of slope upwards slowly until it became the side of the sidewalk. I went over there as a kid every now and then, and she would always hug me, and I would always hate it because I was a kid. So I was like, yuck, I hate, you know, showing affection and all that. And one of my last distinct memories with her, I don't really, and it wasn't really the last like memory of her, but it's like the strongest memory that I have about her was, you know, most of the time that I was seeing her, because I was relatively young at the time, wasn't really of my own accord, but I remember for some reason I had just decided to meet her for lunch, and I drove myself there in her car and showed up to this. It was a very tall building, a very wide, tall building, like a medical building almost, where there's tons of offices, and you walk in and there's a long strip of disgusting looking rug carpet with rubber edges on the side to wipe your feet on if it's been raining. And it had a huge parking lot because all of the offices, you know, needed to hold a lot of people coming to this location. But on that day there was really only a few people. I think it was during the week, so I recall that being somewhat strange. The cafe we were going to was just a small little first floor diner in this building. You could get there through either the inside or through a door on the direct outside of the building. And it was a diner like many old diners, checkerboard, white and black floors, the booth style seats with the red, like, I don't even know what material, almost feels like plastic on them, silver sheen on the tables. I don't really remember what I ordered, probably some pancakes or something, and I don't remember what she ordered either. And it was one of the first times that I had ever, you know, really gotten to speak from the heart with her, because well, it's very different when you ask someone for their time, I think. And I had never really done that before for her. And also, like, just in general, I was pretty unfamiliar with doing that in my life in general. So I remember the conversation being really wonderful. And I asked her about her life, and I spoke about mine and how it had changed since my adolescence. And then we paid for our food and walked out of the diner, and I hugged her, and I remember that hug so vividly. Even though I had always hated it in the past, it was so different that time. And then we walked back to our cars and drove home. And I don't tell this story, I guess, to be super sad or just sentimental, although I am super sentimental, but really just because it's nice to think about it sometimes, and it reminds me that, like, the most memorable time that you spend with people is often the time that you directly request from them. And it's important to do that for people that you care about. Even if it terrifies you to do it. When I was in high school, I used to take that car, that my grandma's car that I don't have anymore, right here, to this parking lot of the local rail expressway. Sometimes I would park it on the lower levels, and sometimes I would come all the way up here to the top. And it's a little bit eerie, especially at night. But a lot of the time I would just come up here to sit or listen to music or whatnot, and just kind of stand here and look at the lights or the sky, or the train's actually coming right now. a lot of people broke the glass on a lot of the windows, so they replaced it with these bars. Same thing on the inside here. And these elevators still work, even though it really doesn't seem like they should. There's a walkway beneath the other side of that, other side of this light that goes into the forest. There's a tree down there that it's spray painted with this dim blue spray paint. And the walkway goes all the way through the woods, all the way past this road to the main intersection, and then comes out and then also splits into the neighborhoods over there on the right. And I would walk that whenever I skipped school and I wanted to walk home. It was about an hour-long walk. And I remember watching the Sean Wasabi videos of him playing with the launch pads. You know, the MIDI controllers with all the little buttons and sample pressing. And I did not have one, but I was so enamored by the concept. It was so cool to me. And so I would walk home on that pathway from school, and I would think of all of the sounds that I had heard on the walk home, or just sounds in my head, or notes, or random stuff. And envision them in a launch pad of sorts, like playing the imaginary guitar, but I had an imaginary MIDI controller in my hands. And so I would just walk home on that route and just press the buttons on the fake launch pad and play these samples into my head. And I didn't ever really like mentally create anything that was like anything at all, but it was a wonderful way to pass the time. Oh, sorry. I guess you couldn't really see anything anyways, but there was someone sitting there. Anyway, right over there is a little playground, and I remember there was a night that it was pouring rain, and I was feeling particularly terrible at home, and I had had a huge argument with my mom, and couldn't sleep, didn't feel comfortable at home, so I went out in the rain in these terribly uncomfortable shorts and a white t-shirt, and I ran through the rain all the way to that playground. And it's a very small playground. There's one swing set with 2 swings, 2 slides, and a little bench that I would always try to do flips off of. And I remember that night I ran to that playground with nothing, and I laid down on the top of the playground in the pouring rain and told myself that I would just sleep there from now on. I really don't know how long I laid there. It felt like hours, but I really doubt it. And I guess I thought that that would be more comfortable than being at home. And, well, if you've ever laid down on the ground while it's pouring rain with your face up towards the sky, I think you can figure out pretty quickly that it was not particularly much more comfortable than being at home. So I went home. Obviously, I kept the key.